Welcome to English News of Đồng Nai Radio and Television Station. On April the 14th, asked about Vietnam's reaction to the U.S. media reporting that China put fighter Zhang J-11 to Phú Lâm Island, Hoàng Sa Island in the east sea of Vietnam. Vietnam Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mr. Lê Hải Bình declared that China's action is an infringement of Vietnam's sovereignty and direct threat to the peace and stability of the region.
Mr. Lê Hải Bình again confirms the indisputable sovereignty of Vietnam towards the two archipelagos Hoàng Sa and Trường Sa. Accordingly, Vietnam resolutely opposed and strongly urged China to immediately stop the infringement of the sovereignty of Vietnam in Hoàng Sa archipelago, asked Beijing to immediately bring the aircraft out of the area and no similar actions recurred.
Answer the question suggested for Vietnam's reaction to China's welcome towards the speech of Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov that the outsiders from the EC issue should stop all acts of interference in direct negotiation of the parties involved, spokesperson Mr. Lê Hải Bình said.
For that matter relates only to the two countries, the bilateral settlement is needed. For the problem related to other countries, such as the Trường Sa Island issue, it cannot be resolved bilaterally, but must have the participation of the stakeholders. And for those issues concerning both countries outside the region, such as security, safety, and freedom of navigation, aviation, it must be discussed and resolved with all countries sharing common interests and concern. Mr. Bình also reiterated Vietnam's stance on the EC issue, which is clear and consistent. Accordingly, Vietnam advocates resolving dispute through peaceful means based on international law, especially the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea in 1982, and in the spirit of joint declaration on the conduct of the parties in the EC, the DOC.
Also in the press conference on April the 14th, Foreign Ministry spokesman Lê Hải Bình has announced the statement by Foreign Ministers meeting of 7 industrialized countries, the G7, on maritime security issues.
Ending the two-day meeting in the city of Hiroshima, Japan on April the 11th, the foreign ministers of G7 issued a joint statement strongly opposed any provocation on the EC and the East China Sea. Answer the question suggested for Vietnam's reaction to the joint statement of the G7 ministerial meeting. Foreign Ministry spokesman Mr. Lê Hải Bình said, Vietnam welcomes the statement of the foreign ministers meeting of G7 industrialized countries on the issue of maritime security, under the common goal is to ensure security and safety, freedom of maritime and aviation, maritime security, and respect for international law. Including the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea in 1982, Vietnam has requested parties to have practical contribution to the maintenance of peace, stability, and the respect of law on the seas and oceans.
In a press conference on April the 14th, Foreign Ministry spokesman Lê Hải Bình also announced that Vietnam authorities are closely monitoring the activities of the two rigs Hải Dương 981 and Hải Dương 943 of China after the two rigs operated in the EC.
Foreign Ministry spokesman Mr. Lê Hải Bình said since the information on the operation of two rigs Hải Dương 981 and Hải Dương 943 of China in the EC, Vietnam authorities always closely monitor the activities of the two rigs as well as closely monitor the activities of other parties in the EC. Previously, Vietnam has handed the protest note to China's putting two rigs in turn to operate in the waters of the Gulf of Tonkin, overlapping areas that Vietnam and China are negotiating delimitation.
U.S. Defense Secretary Ashton Carter on April the 14th affirmed that this country's warships in collaboration with the Philippines during the joint patrol in the EC.
Along with the announcement that two sides continue to coordinate joint patrol on the EC, Mr. Carter also said the United States will put 300 troops stationed in the Philippines until the end of this month. This information was given to the context of the same day during a visit to the Philippines. Mr. Carter has held talks with Defense Secretary Vontaire Guzman and the host country. At a joint news conference after the talks, Mr. Carter said U.S. forces will have regular and frequent presence in the Philippines. Our activities conducting here follows a principle existed for decades, and we act upon the invitation of the allies.
Thank you for your attention. Goodbye and see you tomorrow.